Aoko had not hung up, but the line remained silent. Alice sat down to receive her, quickly put on her mantle, and made for the entrance, moving her injured body by sheer willpower alone. Along the way, she paused, then turned to Soujuurou and looked directly at him.
青子に何かあったんだな。
Alice hesitated for a moment, before pushing aside her anxiety and grabbing his hand.
しずきくん、一緒に来て。
待ってくれ。一緒にってどこに？
We're going on a date!
相田教会まで。青子の方は営利神父にお願いするしかないから。
相田教会って病院の横にある？
そう。知っているのなら問題ないわね。説明する手間も省けたわ。
Alice left the mansion and made her way down the tree-lined path. She was clearly determined, but the look in her eyes betrayed her pain.
アリス、連絡をするなら電話は？
Soujuurou asked Alice, whose grip on his hand was light but unyielding.
教会の人にならもう知らせた。もしかして病院のことを言っているなら、それこそ無駄よ。ハイヤーなんて言うけど、空を飛ぶわけでもないし。今は助けを呼ぶより、助けに行かないと間に合わない。
Alice had thought of everything. She turned to the mansion and lightly snapped her fingers. In response, a window opened and countless starlings took flight. So that's what we heard at, I forgot what chapter, but we heard a lot of bird sounds.
1番隊は索敵。2番隊と3番隊は現場に向かって応急処置を。在庫切れになってもいいわ。
Maybe it really was just one ramen this whole time doing all the noises.
まだ生きているなら、青子の心臓を止めないで。
Alice commanded the birds firmly.
しずきくんは裏庭から青子の自転車を持ってきて。
Soujuurou let slip his discomfort at the thought of that thing. The custom-made red bicycle. When he was cleaning the incinerator, Aoko had verbally assaulted him for nearly scratching it.
いいけど、どうするつもりなんだ、アリスは。
ここにいるより、教会にいた方がしずきくんは安全よ。それに、私も急がないといけない。しずきくん、二人乗りできる？
うん。
He had seen others attendant with confidence they could do it. Only, it was the bicycle that concerned him. Its frame was so light, Soujuurou wasn't sure it could support both their weights.
ん？二人乗りってことは、アリスが後ろに乗るのか？
できないなら、いいわ。
Alice turned away as if to snub him, then began walking. Unfortunately for Soujuurou, he was now on her bad side.
いや、そういう意味じゃないんだ。アリスとはイメージが合わなかったから。
Just chill it, little baby. Ignoring his pleas, she continued briskly towards the woods. There was no way she was going to ride the bike now. Sensing her stubborn streak, he desperately called out to her.
待った。今のはこっちが悪かった。すぐに持ってくるから、怒るのはつけにしておいてくれ。
Alice stopped. Thank you. As soon as he saw her stop, he hurried to the rear courtyard. He grabbed the key from where it was hanging and used it to unlock Aoko's bicycle. By the time Soujuurou brought it back to the front of the mansion, Alice was continuing towards the forest.
アリスの性格、なんとなくつかめてきたな。
Muttering to himself, he straddled the bike. He rested his foot on a pedal. It felt light but sturdy. Confident the bike could support his weight in the houses, he began pedaling.
アリス
She turned as he called out to her, before shooting him a piercing glare.
行こう。後ろの荷台に乗ってくれ。でもクッションがないから痛いと思う。辛かったら言ってくれ。止めるから。
私は大丈夫よ。しずきくんが嫌じゃなければの話だけど。
He had hit the nail on the head. Alice definitely held a grudge over the smallest things.
そういうことなら問題ないよ。アリスが後ろにいてくれるのは嬉しい。それで、行き先は間境界でいいんだな。
Unabashed and undaunted, he plowed on. His tone seemed to ease Alice's mood. She nodded calmly and took a seat in the luggage rack above the rear tire.
手を回すけど、私が触れても平気。
ん？大丈夫だよ。体力があるのはさっき証明しただろ。
Alice silently brought her arms around Soujuurou. Once she had held on tightly enough, he gripped the handlebars.
よかった。
He said quietly.
何が良かったの？
Soujuurou turned to her, and a big yes expression on his face, and then began pedaling vigorously. Let go of the brakes, and the bicycle hurtled down Shira Inazuka's steep incline. Whee! Surprised by the sudden speed, Alice gasped. Speed. The guy Soujuurou tighter. She didn't protest, but stopped when he saw the serious expression on Soujurou's face. Instead, she decided to tighten her grip. Under the night sky, a young girl had put her faith in a young boy. There wasn't Alice. Oh boy. Faster than a roller coaster, the bicycle hurtled towards Misaki Town Station. Around the station, there was no sign of cars or people. Jesus Christ, this sun is bugging me. While the town sat under a snowy blanket, two people were racing like the wind. The boy spoke.
本当によかった。二人乗りが思ったより簡単で。
But he was alone in his relief. It was their first bicycle ride together, and they spent speeding down an empty highway. The boy's words were lost in the howling wind, fortunately. In spite of the late hour, there were still lights in the church. So the only light at this time of night came from the entrance to the sleepless hospital, and were vigilant and ready to receive patients. However, this was a quiet town with little nightlife. The hospital saw perhaps one emergency patient per night, however, and it was not equipped to handle tonight's sole patient. It was a little before 1 o'clock in the morning. Leaving the bicycle outside, the two headed into the church. With its snow-covered roof, the church looked like it was wearing a white hat that lit up the darkness. In the entrance stood a tall shadow.
Kuonji-san.
The man's voice was placid. Dressed in a long coat, he had been waiting for Alice.
エイリ神父、アオコは？
ユイカが見ています。私が駆けつけた時には手遅れでした。 青崎の家に伝令を願いたいのですが。
青子はそれを望まないわ。それに、あちらも今は城に囚われているそうです。今夜の相手は、真っ先に青子の祖父の動きを封じたようですから。
The two exchanged pleasantries. Well then, Soujuurou did not move from the foot of the stairs.
おや、そちらは。
Though the father seemed calm, his words had an edge to them. As if to protect Soujuurou from his gaze, Alice stepped between them. Thank you.
彼は青子の使い魔。契約はまだなされていないけれど。
Hi, I'm dully familiar.
使い魔ってアリス。
Shh. Soujuurou was about to complain, but Alice shot him a fiery glare. That all but said, just shut up and play along.
そうですか。
Thomas?
そのような申告はありませんでしたが、届けが遅れたのは不問としましょう。外部の魔術師と交戦中でしたからね。あなたたちはその撃退を最優先にしたということで。
Alice nodded in thanks.
では通ります。彼の同行を許可しなさい。
ご自由に。私はこれより朝廷に向かいます。管理者が変わるのなら、両教会への資料を用意しなければいけませんので。ああ、留守中は律香に任せてありますから、必要なものがあれば彼女に。
As if passing the baton, Father Airy exited the church. Soujuurou took two full steps back to give him a wide berth. The priest had a dignified air about him. To put it bluntly, he was strikingly beautiful. Straight nose, glistening lips. Not a single imperfection on his mildly effeminate face. But that only went as far as his appearance. His manner lacked any hint of softness or grace. Just looking at him, you could tell he was dependable, like tempered steel, despite being somewhat unapproachable. The priest disappeared soundly into the night, the darkness of his coat overpowering the moonlight. In Eve, Soujuurou watched him leave.
なんか仙人みたいな人だな。
What does he say? Characterized by wisdom, okay. That way, Soujuurou was expressing affection. For some reason, Father Airy's distant tone made him feel nostalgic. Alice gave Soujuurou a deadly stare.
気を許さないで。彼は教会の人間よ。私たちを監視する側だけど、今回は彼の手を借りるしかなかっただけ。許されるなら、真っ先に消えてほしい人間だから。
Right. Now carrots ranking in the air, Alice placed her hand on the doors to the chapel. They were twice her height and who knows how heavy. It did not look like she could have dove down anytime soon. Soujuurou climbed the stairs 3 at a time. I thought Alice pushed the towering doors Edward. You didn't need to smack the door, though. The dim light of the chapel brought with it the familiar scent of burning oil. The
Ecclesiastical.
Ecclesiastical, oh wow. And that means related to the Christian church or its clergy. Okay. Whatever the hell, interior was breathtaking. Tall ceiling, the stained glass windows on every wall. It all felt intended to illustrate the presence of the Holy Spirit within those chambers. Like the floor in the Kuonji State, there was not a single heater. The bitter cold made the chapel feel more severe.
あっちゃん、こっちよ。
The gentle voice echoed through the chapel, incongruous to its surroundings. It was the voice of a woman. Allie, by the way.
リツカさん、奥。
Alice made her way past the rows of posts towards the front altar. Showa closed the large doors and hurried after her.
早かったわね。これから迎えに行こうと思ったのに。
使える足があったから。後ろの彼。
I am the pair of legs. She speaks
足って、あれあなた。
お、
Soujuurou showed himself, surprising the woman. They stared intently at each other, wondering what the other was doing here.
知り合い？
ああ、うん。まずいことに知り合い。宗十郎さん、引っ越したって話だけど、もしかしてあっちゃんのところに下宿してるの？
Soujuurou nodded. Alice turned visibly sour at this unexpected development.
どういうこと？しずきくん、リツカさんとはどういう関係？
関係って、そうね。お魚屋さんでしょっちゅう割引してもらったり、荷物持ちを頼んでみたり、たまにお茶飲んだりする主婦の友みたいな。
意味がわかりません。リツカさん結婚していないでしょ。
Needless to say, Soujuurou was also not a housewive's best friend, and all that suggested but there were more urgent matters at hand.
うわぁ、そこを突っ込むのか。あっちゃん、私にだけは一切妥協がないのはどうかと思うの。
I could not help but touch the ball. I'm gonna try to play like this for the time being. Yeah, no.
リツカさんの場合、
Guess not.
どこまで本気かわからないから。おかしなところは全部追求しておかないといけないだけよ。
あら素敵。仲のいい姉妹みたいね、私たち。じゃあその信頼に応えて本当のこと言うと、彼とは町内会の顔見知りよ。スパイ行為とかそういうんじゃないし、そもそもそんな器用な人じゃないでしょ、宗十郎さんは。
Hi.
本当？
Yeah, of course I'm not. He's not inspired. Alice stared straight at Soujuurou. Or maybe. Let him know she was mad at him for hiding this from her.
本当だ。魚屋でバイトしてる時に知り合った人だ。
Come on.
前に親切にしてもらったんで、お礼にイワシを一匹サービスしたら、それ以来ごひいきに。
That's cute.
そうそう。商店街で買い物してれば、嫌でも宗十郎さんとは顔見知りになるわ。あっちゃんも怒るぐらいなら買い物に来ればいいのに。密かな商店街のアイドルです、彼。
Secret stand.
アイドルとは人気者という意味で、値切りやすいかもって意味じゃないような。
His apparent popularity was to be questioned in our time. Hey! Tap that. Collecting herself, Alex spoke through the door in the recess of the church.
リツカさんの事情は知りませんが、 彼は青子の連れです。その他に説明はいりますか？
Yep. And you're gonna go back to the cage. You little crazy baby.
ああ、やっぱりそういうことなのね。ま、言いたいことはいろいろあるけど、今はそれどころじゃないし。了解したわ。他ならぬあっちゃんの頼みだし、特殊な例だけど、彼はこちらで保護しましょう。
Now it's time to begin walking to the door.
アリス、
ダメよ、宗十郎さん。
Sojuurou was about to follow Alice. Ritsuka stepped in his way.
あなたは言ってはいけません。彼女たちに任せなさい。
She asserted bluntly. Meanwhile, Alice had reached the door and entered further into the chapel.
言ってはいけないって、どうして？
あなたのためよ。青子の容体は普通の人が見ていいものじゃない。気分を悪くするだけ。それとも嫌な思いをしてもいいくらい青子が心配なのかしら。
Sojuurou was not able to give an immediate answer. It had finally hit him just how bad the state Aoko must be in. Based on Alice's condition, when he found her, he intuited that Aoko's injuries might be even worse. He tried to imagine her expression in that state but could not.
青崎相手に心配なんかしません。
Literally, he had never been warned about her before, not truly.
でも会いに行くのね。
はい。
He answered her reflexively. Ritsuka cited the boy's naivety, but nonetheless stepped aside.
どうぞ行ってらっしゃい。アリスさんが使ったドアから入って4番目の部屋よ。今一番取り込んでる頃だから、ゆいちゃんの邪魔だけはしないように。
Sojuurou thanked her and went after Alice, leaving Ritsuka Suse, the self-proclaimed everybody's friendly neighbor, alone.
さて、ゆいかあたりなら止めるんでしょうけど、ま、私は宗十郎さんの味方だし、傷つく男の子とか大好物だし。少々スパルタと自覚しておりますが、これも親切な姉心と思って、宗十郎さんには後悔していただきましょう。
She spoke with words, but her words echoed aimlessly around the chapel. With a sigh, she shrugged her shoulders to the side of the cross in a rather impious manner. The sound of Sojuurou's footsteps grew fainter. His lack of hesitation had left a pain in her heart. And not because he did not look back at her, but because he was choosing to ignore the primal fear inside him. An elderly man once said, "An animal's death and a human's are two different things. You may think they are the same, but they differ to their core. Our heads have known the difference since the dawn of man. An animal's squirrels, be it a pig's or a deer's, is different. If the swing of an axe or a machete is violent, then so must a human corpse be. Therefore, before you see one with your own eyes, you should at least understand it with your ears. Listen closely, Sojuurou. When a person dies, blood flows like a crimson river. It's too much to bear. Perhaps because he was not used to the stone path beneath his feet. Sojuurou's mind wandered back to the words he knew heard as a child. The instant he opened the door, there was a palpable change in the air. The room was small, with only a simple bed and a small wooden dresser. And there in the bed, Where was I gonna decide? Oh, okay, most likely. Standing to her was the woman who you just seen in the chapel. Ritsuko. No, she only looked a lot like her. Her eyes were closed and her garments covered in blood. He had met her maybe once before. Yuika Suse, a nun at the church. She was doing something to Aoka. Yuika held a pair of scissors in some trend. Her hands moved delicately yet quickly, and still playing an organ. Her movements were precise, as if flawlessly beating sheet music. One by one, the supply of bandages diminished. Bandages recently applied to the wounds were quickly replaced with fresh ones. Gauze was placed everywhere to try and cope with the amount of blood. Once with white cloth was now dyed red and discarded. The dressing scattered around the floor resembled roses. An wilted rose garden to non-played her organ. The scene looked unlike any reality Soujuurou knew. It was clear why the air had changed. There was a savage odor in the room. Even though he was experiencing it for the first time, he knew what it was. The smell burned his lungs. He could not bring himself to look at the bed. Fighting his feelings, his eyes refused to move there. He noticed Alice next to the bed. Never expressionless, she looked like a statue next to a grave. Except she was trembling ever so slightly. It could have been from fear, anxiety, rage, or a combination of the three. Before her lay a life on the verge of death. But whose life? It was difficult to tell with only a glance. Some sort of puppet covered in bandages, perhaps. Her hair should be beautiful, but it fell flat, disabled. Despite her short breaths, her chest convulsed. Up, down, up, down. Facetious, though the thought was, Soujuurou recalled a rodeo machine on the roof of the department store. The painkillers and anesthesia could not have been working. New bandages were soaked crimson in seconds. Her fingernails bit into the sheets. Her face twisted in agony. Anesthesia would not be enough, so if she was still alive, she must be conscious too. It worried him that no one seemed concerned about this. In this state, she would surely lose her mind before her life. In short, the boy never wanted to see anything like this ever again. Bed sheets should be white, not red. With everything, the color deepened. Soujuurou was finally forced to accept that the bleeding mess in the center of it was her. He felt the blood surge in his veins. The squeaking of the bed, the snap of the scissors, the gasps of agony, it all faded. All he could hear was his own pounding heartbeat. The smell of blood, the blood she choked up sent a wave of nausea through him. His knees abandoned him. And it was perfectly understandable. His brain had to shut his consciousness off to protect itself. The mind could only take so much reality. He would give anything to never see something like that again.
そうか。青子ちゃんは全部わかっているんだね。自分だけのことじゃなくて、この後に起きることも、何が残って何が残らないのかも全部まっすぐに受け止めている。それでも自分であり続けられるということはとても強いことなんだよ。
And on she went. I kind of like her smile, but she just had to go and see the one thing I wish she hadn't. The last day of middle school seemed so long ago. As the ephemeral cherry blossom petals danced around, my little dream was crushed. I never really considered myself strong. At least, until I began remembering those words from time to time.
青崎は分かってると思ってた。いや、きっと分かってるんだな。だから、そこが強いんだろうね。
And lately, an idiot who said things like that had appeared in my life. I knew I always judged people more harshly than those around me. But to have someone I only known for a few days point that out was like a stab in the chest. Not only that, the words sounded so similar. They made me so angry I couldn't see straight. Only him and one other person have ever said anything like that to me. Then again, I suppose my sister said the same without actually saying it. You're different from us. But me being me, I take it as a curse rather than a compliment. My actions, my choices, my morals, all the good and bad I've done. And all said and done, am I really any better than everyone else? Of course I am. I'll never sacrifice myself for those around me. They just had to call me strong, true to myself, in spite of how alone, stubborn, and ridiculous I know I can be. When I was younger, it only confused me. I mean, I don't know any other way. I am who I am. The frustrating fact is, I simply don't have the courage to give up. So why? Why do I get treated special for doing what comes naturally? Human nature? The sunlight stared her. Maybe it was the pain from having her whole body held together by arcane threads. But Olga felt like she too had a silly dream. She gulped air through her painful, parched throat. Great rays of light shone through a small window, bringing her back to reality. Unable to bear it, Aoko attempted to roll over. Except she could only move her right arm. She tried lifting her arm, but couldn't feel anything past her elbow. Once she stopped concentrating on her bandaged arm, it fell to the bed like a stone. Aoko took in her surroundings, moving only her eyes. Evidently, she had been asleep in this bed. Unable to feel certain parts of her body, she felt like a robot. The room was tiny and decorated. It was like an apartment without a tenant. Judging by the good repair, she guessed that she was in Ada Church. Outside, it seemed closer to noon than morning. Clouds filled the sky as usual, during the sun's rays. Idly, she thought that it could be enough to melt the snow outside. And then, finally, she noticed the figure of a girl. Next to her bed, Alice Kuonji was sitting in a chair, unmoving.
Alice.
She called out to her, all too casually. It was more difficult to talk than she thought. Alice was her typical stoic self. Although Aoko did notice a glimpse of concern in her eyes.
寝てないんでしょ。肌が荒れてる。
努力はしたわ。けど、瞳子さんに飲まされたものが解毒されるまで眠れそうにないの。半端な痛みは、こういう時に生ぬるいわね。
Alice in the characteristically vulgar cabin helped Aoko feel a little more like her usual self. She felt reassured having a comrade in arms by her side instead of a concerned neighbor. Is Sojira still on the floor, or is he put like on a different bed? For comfort's sake.
そう。アリスもやられたの。状況は大体予想してるけど、一応細部を聞かせてくれない？
Aoko remained horizontal as she spoke with a cool tone. Despite Aoko's condition, Alice granted her request. After all, they had known each other for 2 years. Alice knew exactly the kind of anesthesia Aoko Aozaki needed right now. Alice Kuonji's battle with Aoko Aozaki ended in the former's victory. The tame Stroll was a special familiar even among fairy tale monsters. While lacking the incredible reality warping abilities of Flat Snark, its sheer mass, durability, and strength were second to none. Aoko's rune magecraft was rendered completely ineffective by its stone armor. In all fairness to Aoko, most mages would not stand a chance against a bridge giant. The reason lay in the mystic's body. As a general law of magecraft, a mystic will lose to a stronger, older mystic. The history of the bridge giant dated back well over 1,000 years. Its origins could be traced to the 1st century when Britannia was conquered by the Romans. Conversely, despite having roots dating back to the Age of Gods, runes had unfortunately been lost to time. Rune magecraft was little more an attempt to revive and use a dead art. However, monsters from fairy tales like the troll were different. They lived on in the hands of Alice Kuonji. The magical world was vast, but one could probably count on one hand the number of magecraft that still functioned after being chanted into existence a millennia ago, as Alice's place did. In contrast, Luca, the rune user, was only about 2 decades old. Founding a rune took only a moment. There was no way a quick spell could defeat the personification of London Bridge in Alice's homeland. That being said, a beast had appeared that surpassed even those from fairy tales. Beowulf, the golden beast. It seemed absurd to compare a small and relatively powerless wolf to a towering stone giant. The team's throw attacks were earthquaking. A direct hit from its 50-ton strikes would smash anything to paste, while a glancing blow would still create mincemeat. And yet the beast had attacked head-on and torn right through it. The wolf's fur bristled, and the creature metamorphosed like liquid. It was a breathtaking display. The wolf howled at the moon as if in joy, and staked forth like a bolt of golden light. In an instant, the duel was decided. The radiant spear of a wolf flew straight through the giant's chest and sank its teeth into its heart. The troll exploded. Shock of stony muscle rained down. Luminous fire scattered in the wind. two mystics dispersed without a trace and returned from whence they came. The curtain fell on a battle straight out of mythology. There, among the rubble of the fairy tale monster, was the golden wolf, standing like a flame. What came after could barely be described as a battle. It was more like the slaughter of defeated pawns. The wolf leapt on Alice, disemboweling her with ease. Its claws cut through the protective wards on Alice's coat, like a hot knife through butter. The golden wolf. Meow. This wolf, which understood human speech, could only be the magical creature known as the werewolf. Werewolves were the forest people of Western Europe, which are just far more ancient than the fabricated vampire legends of the continent. However, none were known to have golden coats. It was said that the most elite werewolf bloodlines boasted silver fur. Silver werewolves were pack leaders, and werewolves of that caliber were considered phantasmal, rather than merely magical creatures. But a golden werewolf was superior even to that, and so transcended human knowledge. Alice Kuonji's boys were among the ultimate mystics to have been treated by humankind. Therefore, the golden wolf could only have been a mystic born of the planet. And that celestial body has been active for millions, even billions of years. Occasionally, a miraculous droplet of creation spills over into our current world. This mystic had to be over 3,000 years old. A human mage. No, any mage living in the current magical paradigm would be helpless against a golden wolf. Not even in theory would he stand a chance of defeating it. Which meant that this werewolf was Aoko and Alice's worst nightmare. We're bringing back a caveman. Have helped? That's a question.
アリスがお手上げの相手だものね。私がどうにかできるはずもなかったわけだ。
If we're fighting years against years, then yeah, the game would have worked.
でも、要は魔術でなければいいのよね。テムズの動力は魔力だけど、テムズのパンチは純粋な衝撃でしょ。当たりさえすればぺしゃんこじゃないの。
残念だけど、あれ基本は狼の姿なだけで状況によって形を変えるわ。テムズの腕を受け止めた時は大猿みたいになっていたし。
Wow. Yeah.
機関銃やロケットで狙ってもかわされるか体の硬い生き物に変化して防ぐんじゃないかしら。
地球上の生き物なら何にでも変われるってことか。でもまあ質量までは無理かな。基本は2メートル台の生物のいいとこ取りってあたりで勘弁してほしいわね。ねえ、すごく関係ないけど深海の生き物に変わられたらちょっと怖いと思わない？
How can I derive a ship amount of this creature's existence? Oh yeah. For the best of turtle, Alice. I can't even imagine what would have gone through her head. That would happen. The conversation appeared to have revived her fighting spirit. Once again, her eyes were focused and her thoughts clear. Aoko was back to her usual self.
で、その後はアリスうまく逃げられたの？
いいえ、私もあの狼にやられたわ。
Alice explained how the wolf had pinned her to the ground. Incidentally, she kept the part about Soujuurou rather short. Alice herself was not entirely sure why she felt it necessary to leave most of that information out.
アリスが相手をした後、
休む間もなく私のところに来たわけか。初めから昨日で決着をつけるつもりだったんだ、兄貴。姉妹かな。ここぞって時のタイミングは一緒だったの忘れてた。切り札は見せたからには敵を殲滅しなくちゃいけない。姉貴は視点を残り2つにしておいて、自分の正体を告げてこっちの戦力を分けさせた。その時点で奥の手を投入してくることは覚悟してたけど、まさか人狼なんて際物とはね。
Aoko let out a heavy sigh. I was not slightly in agreement.
それはそれとして、宗十郎がアリスを助けに行くなんてね。感謝しなくちゃいけないんだろうけど、バカな真似してくれたわ。私が瞳子の立場なら、報復の可能性は一つ残らず排除する。私たちがどうにかなった後、猫の手首ひねるみたいに片付けられるわよ、あいつ。
しずきくんならこちらで保護してもらってるけど。
Aoko's eyes widened.
うわ、どういう風の吹き回し？アリスがあいつの世話を焼くなんて。
だって放っておいたら青子が怒ると思って。
Alice spotted with her eyes closed. Aoko frowned in silent indignation, as if she wanted to protest where Alice got that idea from.
まあいいけど、それじゃあ今ここにいるんだ、宗十郎。姿が見えないけどどうしたの？
Try looking down below. We haven't picked him up ever since he passed out. Still unable to move her neck, she looked around as best as she could.
彼なら気分を悪くして倒れたわ。今はエイリ神父の寝室を借りているけど。
Aoko furrowed her brow what collapsed. Sure, he was under the church's protection, but had Toko set the wheels in motion for his death? Nope.
何があったの？
Not yet. Alice paused for a moment before carefully answering the question.
それが彼、あなたを見て嘔吐したの。
She had decided to be blunt. Aoko was taken aback. For several seconds, dim sunlight leaked through the window. Once she had found her voice again, she muttered.
いいけど、ひどい侮辱よね、それって。
Perhaps amused or perhaps exhausted from staying up all night, Alice cracked a tiny giggle.
何よ、そんなにおかしい、アリス。
さあ、どうかしらね。けど、しずきくんにも言い分はあるでしょう。今のあなた、とても見られたものじゃないわ。
He thought he was not going to care, but nope. Everything he saw got the best of him. That poor unfortunate dumbass. Aoko praised her physical state. He saw... She was dressed in a hospital gown. Bandages covered the majority of her body. Her right leg was in a plaster cast. Since she could move her right arm, she brought her bandaged fingers up to her throat.
そっか、思い出した。あのガキ、まず私の首元に噛みついたんだっけ。すごかったわよ、首が噛み砕かれるのって。ゴキンって音が頭の中に響いて、気持ち悪いったらなかったわ。あそこから好き勝手やられたもんだから、つい忘れてた。
Aoko felt that beat, but the look in her eyes was anything but. She had been torn to pieces, but her life had been mercifully spared. At least, she hadn't been dismembered. She had been bitten, beaten, and her bones broken. Magic rests continuing to Aosaki's secret arts decorated her body. Even if her spine was broken, as long as her body was alive, the crests would piece it back together. Despite the crests easing the pain a little, she's still hurt enough to want to kill that wolf 100 times over.
視点は全部壊された。これで岬氏の霊脈はフリーってわけね。全容を把握してるのはうちらだけの特権だったけど、トウコは昔から知ってる以上、解析の手間もいらないと。真剣な話、所有権の書き換えまで何時間かかると思う？
トウコさんなら2日かからないでしょうね。支店の修復は土地そのものに任せるしかない。支店のプロテクトが治る頃にはこの町はもう彼女のものよ。
明日の夜明けとともに破産する我が身とはね。それでアリスの方はどうなの？まだいける？
思考魔術だけなら少しは。あとは小道具に頼ることになるでしょうね。
ああ、お話にならないか。
Aoko went silent again, staring straight at the ceiling. Alice knew all too well what that look meant.
それでもやるんでしょ、アオコは。
まあね、私諦めるのってできないから。で、そういうアリスはどうなのよ？
私は一度自分のものになったものは決して人には渡さない。
Aoko muttered in agreement to Alice's terse response. Alice's intense attachment to her possessions was enough to make even Aoko shiver. Once something is mine, it stays mine. To take it a step further, betrayal was an unforgivable sin. This personal motto was further proof of her uncompromising nature.
オッケー、決まりね。じゃあ、悪いけどもう少し休ませて。今晩までには何とか動けるようにするから。
If the nun who stitched her back together had heard that, she would have fainted. Aoko could barely even eat in her current condition. Even so, Alice nodded and stood up. As Aoko's partner, she knew that once her mind was made up, she had to trust her. Sadly, the girl in black began to take her leave. She stopped in front of the door, her hand to her mouth.
アリス？
Alice was curious, suspecting that Alice had something silly to say again. Quite the contrary. Instead of blushing, Alice furrowed her brow like she was taking over a difficult riddle.
アリス？
Aoko called out, but Alice remained with her back to her roommate.
なんで間に合ったのかしら。
She spoke as if the words had accidentally burst out from her thoughts. In human speed, Alice's question was about something Aoko could not possibly have guessed.
あの時もそう。私たち始発で帰ってきたのに。
She carried on mumbling at the door. Unable to find an answer, Alice gloomily put her hand at the door knob.
言いたくないなら別にいいけど。
Door knob. Ugh.
何がどうしたっていうのよ、アリス。
Alice did not respond. She opened the door to leave the room and left a few words hanging in the air.
どうでもいいことだけど、ゆいかさんにはしずきくんは見えなかったそうよ、アオコ。
The door closed with a thud. Huh? Oh.
そりゃまた珍しい。
Aoko mumbled to herself from her bed, seeming slightly happier. Blind since birth, Yuika Suse saw the world through her other senses. Oh, she's She's quite literally was always blind. She was especially sensitive to enemies or those who bore ill will, and typically viewed almost everyone as a threat. Presumably because that was the easiest thing to pick up on. So when she said she couldn't see Soujuurou, that meant she was completely harmless. And then, that harmless individual decided to pay the small sick room a visit. Soujuurou looked like a stiff breeze could knock him over. It made Aoko wonder who the real patient was.
何しに来たのあんた。
Though Aoko could barely move, she was still able to give him the cold shoulder. Or cold meat, because the shoulder is missing actually. His expression gaunt, Soujuurou grunted something to another before beginning to speak more coherently.
アリスが客間で眠ったから礼拝堂にいたんだけど、人が集まりだしたんで、こっちに逃げてきた。
あ、礼拝の時間か。クリスマスだってのによくやるわ。
Christmas. It was indeed Christmas, but regular mass was on Christmas Eve. The ones gathering in the chapel must have been truly devout followers. Tourists were rare in Misaki after all. So much so that almost no one visited the area at this time of year. The worshippers must have been locals.
それで別にどうってことないでしょ。探せば顔見知りもいるんじゃない？
Aoko was as distant as ever. She clearly had not forgotten the fact he had vomited when he saw her, and a hint of spite leaked into her voice. Then again,
いや、ちょうどいい機会だから、いろいろと聞きたくなって。少し話をしていいかな。
since Aoko was always in a bad mood, Soujuurou did not pick up on anything out of the ordinary. She wanted to tell him to go drink some water because he looked ready to collapse, but he didn't seem aware of his own condition. And to be fair to him, Alice did say Aoko was in bad shape. Given how unaccustomed to blood Soujuurou was, it was no wonder he had fainted.
ああ、そうか。話なんてまだ無理だな。すまない。出直してくる。
Soujuurou seemed to have misunderstood Aoko being deep in thought as not having enough stamina to speak. Naturally, this did not sit well with Aoko.
待ちなさいよ。話だけなら別に構わないわ。やる気持て余してるし、暇つぶしがてらに相手してあげるわよ。ま、退屈しのぎにしてはちょっとグレード下がるけど、この際贅沢言ってられないし。
Soujuurou sensed this was going to be rough, but took a seat in the chair next to the bed.
で、何が聞きたいの？
Aoko spoke energetically in an attempt to distract from her weakened appearance. I came here because I heard you can grant people wishes. Naturally, she knew she was fooling no one.
うん。やっぱり青崎は強いな。安心した。
Soujuurou said, nodding in admiration. Aoko shot him an unimpressed look in response to the unwanted praise.
あんたってほんと間が悪いわ。いいわよ、別に。私の夢の話だから、そっちが気に病むことは。
She glowered, remembering. Come to think of it, almost everyone in her dream was here in the church, turning her dour expression into a irritated one.
やめやめ、こんなつまんない話。聞きたいことがあるなら手っ取り早く済ませちゃってよ、宗十郎。
よかった。じゃあ、まず今の状況を聞かせてくれないか。瞳子さんの話じゃ、俺も無関係じゃないそうだし。
Soujuurou spoke calmly, making Aoko wonder if he really understood the gravity of his situation. He was Toko's enemy now. He was defenseless and needed protection. Neither Aoko nor Alice could help him, and the church could withdraw their sanctuary at any moment. He had picked a side, and that had turned him from innocent bystander into a target. The answer he sought was as simple as that. He knew the facts. He was not a mage and was therefore powerless. But not maybe against a wolf? Question mark?
まあそれでもアリスは助けられたわけだし。
Aoko did owe him for that. To see things, she decided to at least give him the whole story up until now.
よし、今までの経緯も含めて軽く説明してみましょうか。私も何か得るものがあるかもしれないし。
Aoko composed herself before beginning her explanation. The battle began at the end of November. A lot happened since then, including meeting Soujuurou.
事の起こりは1ヶ月前。三崎市に貼られた結界の端っこが何者かに消されたのが発端だった。私が跡継ぎになってから5度目の三崎市を狙う敵の登場ってわけ。今回の敵は私たちとは直接戦わず、まず土地を奪うところから始めたわ。今までのやつは私たちを半人前と舐めていたから、大抵は真正面から仕掛けてきて、勝手にアリスの猟犬の餌食になったんだけど、まあそれはどうでもいいとして。町の結界には2種類あって、侵入者を見つけるものと土地の力を有効利用するものがあるの。敵が壊したのは土地の結界の方で、これが全部壊されると私やアリスは土地の所有権を失ってしまう。土地のないはぐれ魔術師と同じになっちゃうのよ。もちろんそうならないように侵入者をあぶり出すための結界があるんだけど、こっちには何の反応もなかった。ま、当然よね。今回の敵は私の姉貴青崎瞳子その人だったんだから。青崎の結界は同族である姉貴を敵とみなさなかった。あるいは姉貴は結界の抜け道、構造の資格をついたのかもしれない。もともとうちの後継者はあの人だし、それぐらいの知識はあったでしょう。そうして姉貴は私たちに見つかることなく好き勝手に結界の支点を壊し始めた。時間をかけてゆっくり壊していったのは、外からやってきた部外者を演じていたからでしょうね。さすがに連続して壊されればこっちも身内の犯行だと疑うし、うち親戚である浅木家とは仲悪いままだしさ。ま、姉貴の芝居に騙された私たちが間抜けなんだけど、セオリーとして結界崩しは長丁場になるものなの。管理地の結界は強固に作られているからね。普通は半年単位での攻防になる。攻める側はまず結界を形取る視点が何個あるか、それがどの5大要素でくくられているか、退去の正しい順序はどれか、それらを地道に解き明かしていく。もちろん管理地の魔術師たちの目を盗みながら。対して守る側は侵入者がいることに気づくから、悪さをされる前に敵の拠点を見つけ出して外敵を排除する。こんな感じで結界崩しは長期戦、あるいは前哨戦になるものなの。大抵は攻める側が視点を壊すぞとアピールして土地の持ち主を翻弄疲弊させてから、魔術師同士の直接対決で決着がつくわ。なんで結界を全部壊す必要はないのよ。管理地の持ち主を始末した方が早いし、その後は術式さえ解読しちゃえば土地を結界ごと横取りできる。わざわざ壊して作り直すより、昔からある結界の方が土地に馴染んでいて強力だしで一石二鳥でしょ。
That was how Aoko and Alice were duped. They never thought the enemy would waste the time and effort needed to break all sigils.
だから私とアリスはとりあえず受けに回った。視点を探すために街を調査している敵を待ち伏せて、これを片っ端から倒そうって。でもそのうちの一つがケチのつき始めだった。三崎町の公園で山張って待ち受けていた時、どうでもいい第三者が覗き見してやがったのよ。
Indeed. It was the ultimate taboo in the world of magecraft. The existence of mages must never be revealed to outsiders.
その後のことはわかるでしょ。
Yeah.
私は敵との小競り合いをアリスに任せて、それより重要な目撃者狩りに専念せざるを得なくなった。言っとくけど、これはあんたのことだからね。そこで我関せずみたいな顔しないこと。
Oh wow, I wonder who saw you on that night at the park and showed them. I was gonna have Aoko said that Soujuurou gave her that exact look. Clearly he had been listening, but not necessarily understanding.
ま、いいけどね。宗十郎がそんなだから秘密は漏れなかったんだし。で、あんたっていう目撃者を消そうとした私の単独行動は敵にしても都合のいいものだった。強敵であるアリスがいないんだから、敵はこれを機会に私を始末しようと特注品の人形を差し向けたと思っていたけど、あれはただの嫌がらせね、間違いなく。そうでなきゃ私そっくりの人形なんて派遣するかっての。
Such nodded, taking back to the Aoko replica.
あれのことは忘れてちょうだい。まあそこから先はあんたもうすうす知ってるでしょ。私とアリスは敵との戦いに専念することになって、毎日のように捜査の手を空振って決戦の夜を迎えて、今はこうしてる。大体の経緯はこんなところよ。
She stared down at her body as if recalling what had happened would help her accept her current state. Under the sheets, magical energy steadily flowed through her partially banished body.
青崎、これまでの君たちの話は分かった。けど、肝心の今の状況はどうなっているんだ
Soujuurou's specific concern was the reason Aoko was lying there. More than anything, he wanted to know what had happened to her the night before.
バカね。状況も何も完全に私たちの負けじゃない。
Judging by her tone, she would have raised both hands sarcastically in celebration if she could.
負けた？
事実は正しく受け止めなくっちゃね。5つの視点が全部壊された時点で勝負はついたの。管理地の所有権は宙ぶらりで、明日には東子の手に渡るでしょう。で、それを阻止したいこっちは、私もアリスもこのありさま。もう立場は逆転したから、これから私たちは挑戦者。つまりはぐれ魔術師ってことよ。
Which meant that Aoko, Alice, and Soujuurou only had a few more days with which to utilize the church's services. Aida Church was not only an arm of the Mages Association, but also a branch of the Holy Church that monitored heresy. Aoko and Alice were owners of heresy. Aoko and Alice were owners of Psychic City's spiritual lands, but they belonged to neither of these organizations. The only reason the church helped them at all was because he buried the land's administrators. Once his rights were lost, the church would have no reason to provide any further aid.
エイリ神父はコウモリだから私を助けてくれたけど、ユイカさんは教会の代行者だから、傷が塞がったなら明日にでも出て行けって言ってくる。教会にとっちゃ 魔術師なんてもともと排除すべき商売敵だからね。バカリツカはま、泣きつけば力にはなってくれるでしょうけど。
Soujuro understood well what Aoko was talking about.
そうじゃなくて、青崎、昨日の夜、何があったんだ？
Soujuro pressed her that Aoko really wished she had not.
見てわからない。惨敗なんてものじゃないわ。喉に食いつかれる。体中好き放題噛まれまくる。挙句に右のマモなんてなくなってたそうよ。ま、アリスのチョコレートのおかげで出血死は免れたけど。
She knocked out the caster out her leg. Aoko spoke casually, but was trying to hide how much she wanted revenge for being humiliated. But Soujuro or what? In contrast, Soujuro felt empty. The little color he had in his face began to fade. Was he repulsed by the terrible situation? Or were his instincts telling him to flee? Regardless, he appeared very human.
なんでそこで固まる？あ、そっか。私を見て吐き出しちゃうぐらいナイーブなんだっけ、宗十郎ってば。大丈夫よ、今はくっついてるから。ゆいかさんは治療専門だし、私だってただやられてたわけじゃないし。復元は青崎の得意分野だから、あれくらい問題ないわ。
She gave him a reassuring look, but his expression wasn't changed. Aoko had expected him to worry, but this level of concern made it hard for even her to berate him. Feeling embarrassed, she started talking again.
けど姉切ったら、どうやってあんなのを手なずけたんだろう。金の狼なんて伝説の中にしかいないと思ってた。神代の神秘であるあいつには千年クラスの魔術じゃないと太刀打ちできない。かといって殴り合いでどうにかできる相手じゃないし。
As images of the night before entered Aoko's mind, she bit her lip in anguish.
金の狼？
Tremendously, the bizarre phrase snapped Soujuro out of his state of shock.
そう、黄金の人狼、金狼って言った方がいいのかな。狼男って言ってもわからないわよね。人間と狼のいいとこ取りみたいなやつと思えばいいわ。野獣というより魔獣の類よ。普通の人狼なら対抗手段はあるんだけど、トウコが連れてるのは黄金の毛並みをした怪物でさ。あれは原初の人狼の血統で魔獣を通り越して幻獣の域に達している。聖域の相手にはそいつらを上回る神秘、積み重ねた時間とか魔術の奥義じゃないと無効化されるのよ。魔術は万能だけど、この年月の差だけは覆せない。ま、人間の魔術師にとっては天敵みたいな自然災害ね。
Her words indicated more admiration than hatred. The way she whispered about the wolf. Strangely, it made sense to Soujuro.
何？
いや、要するに青崎たちじゃかなわない相手なんだな。なんてひどいやつだ。アリスはお腹が裂かれてた。青崎は傷ついてないところはないぐらいだ。子供なのに、いや、子供だから加減がないのか。
Soujuro's face was ghostly pale as he muttered nervously. Aoko merely nodded in agreement.
ほんと。人の体を何だと思っているのかしらね、あのお子さん。なぬ
Aoko raised her hand. I mean, it sounded like a kid. She sounded as if she had seen a ghost.
今、子供って言った？あんた、なんでそんなことまで知ってるの？
やっぱりそうなのか。金色の髪なんて2人もいないと思ったんだ。そいつなら一度見かけたことがある。
Is it the very same one that we've seen at that abandoned looking school by any chance?
青崎が口にしたような怪物じゃなかったけど、森の奥で。木の実が2人がかりでとっちめようなんて怖いこと言い出してさ、かないっこないから止めたんだよ。
But how did you come to such a conclusion, dude? What the fuck? You still was as curious as the things he was trying to articulate. Aoko, however, had more pressing matters. Much more pressing.
見たって、どこで？
学校の旧校舎。あ、そういえば挨拶程度なら話もしたっけ。一度だけアルバイトの時に牛肉50キロを生で届けたことがあって。
50 kilos.
この大バカ者！
A strangely satisfying slapping sound rang out. Ignoring her wounds completely, Aoko had grabbed the slipper and thrown it at Soujurou's unassuming face as hard as she could. She panicked that Soujuurou was knocked completely out of his chair. How could he have known? I mean, about to tell you. If you're gonna be mad about it. For a while, neither moved. One was a little bit unconscious for I don't know how much time.
なんで怒るんだ、青崎。
Yeah. The boy asked, unfazed as he slowly picked himself up. Oh, never mind. Never mind. It's all good. Knock, knock, then everything. He said cross-legged as Aoko scowled at him like an enemy.
当たり前じゃない。なんでそんな怪しいこと黙ってんのよ、あんたは。
How would he have known?
言うほどのことでもない。
What a wolf thing.
第一、君たちにこんな話をしても怒られるだけじゃないか。
Aoko knew he was right, and so she swallowed her words. Yeah. She imagined themselves at dinner.
ところで今日、牛肉の山を担いで届けたんだ。一匹丸ごと。いや、あるところにはあるものだね。お金と食欲。
If he had actually said it, Aoko and Alice's response would have been less than cordial.
それはそうだけど、本当に金髪の子供が旧校舎にいたの？
それが青崎の言う人狼かどうか自信はないけど、少なくとも町中の料理店が入れ替わりでおかしな注文を届けてるのは事実だ。駅前の大デートなんてお得意様だって。
So that was the weird place this whole time.
確かに食事のたびにあいつを外に出してちゃ目立つだろうけど。
She did not want to believe it, but the child had to be the werewolf. Could Aoko really have been so careless as to hide him in plain sight? It didn't matter at this point. With the werewolf's habitat revealed, Toga's base had been revealed too. To take out the battlefield, she needed an inconspicuous place to store materials. Misaki High School's old school building was the perfect place.
つまり全ての鍵はあんたが隠し持ってたってわけね。
Unintentionally.
隠していたんじゃない。だいたい青崎が裏山の掃除に参加していたらその時に分かったんじゃないか。飛び丸一人に任せず青崎も掃除に出ればよかったんだ。
In response to Soujurou's infallible logic, Aoko snapped her fingers. Bitch! Instead of an hour slipper missile, she let a fateful white color express how she felt. What a loser. And with the tightening of the color, Soujuurou realized something. Aoko had changed. From the bed, she looked down on him with a commanding glare. That week from her entrance, she was as sharp as ever. You would be forgiven for forgetting she was ever a patient. She was raring to fight. It went without saying who her rage was directed at.
Aozaki?
Aoko responded in a vulnerable tone. Perhaps she had been taken by surprise. Now she had an objective. She had been lost in her own little world.
ありがとう、宗十郎。
Thank you, finally, for taking us. She expected her to be sarcastic, but this was different. She was genuinely taking him. Good. She had never known her to be like this, and was taken aback.
とにかく瞳子の居場所が分かったのはあんたのおかげだから、礼ぐらい言っておこうと思ったの。それがお気に召さなかった？
いや、お礼を言ってもらえるのはいいことだけど。
What would be even nicer if this color could be removed? So, could you?
まさか、その体で瞳子さんのところに行くつもりか？
His tone was closer to scolding than sympathetic. Aoko simply nodded resolutely.
取られたものは取り返すものよ、宗十郎。それもすぐに相手のものになってしまう前にね。ぐずぐずしている暇はないわ。
She sounded unshakable. Even so, Soujuurou wouldn't back down.
勝ち目がなくてもか。暇はないと言うけど、今はそれ以上に休息が必要だろう。その傷だって今は見れるけど、昨日はひどかったじゃないか。生きていたのが幸運なぐらいだ。
違うわ。あれは幸運なんかじゃない。そんな玉かっていうのよ、瞳子は。
幸運じゃない？
そう。瞳子はね、私が生き残れる程度の傷にとどめたのよ。今回は見逃してやるから、もう一度やってこいって意味でね。だから私は生きてるんだし、瞳子は私が行くのを待ってる。お互いがお互いの舞台の幕を下ろすために。そうでなければここまで待った意味がないでしょ。嫌だけど、あんたの言葉を借りるならね。
Irritation tainted Aoko's words. From the side, she looked terrifyingly serious. She was ready to fight to the death. Though I had given her little choice. Soujuurou could understand neither sister.
殺すために生かしたっていうのか、瞳子さんは。青崎はそれが分かっているのに行こうとしている。
そうよ。勝負はついたけど、まだ私たちの話は終わっていないもの。確かに全開してから行った方がいいに決まってる。けど、そうしている間に瞳子は岬の深部にたどり着く。そうなったら、私の最後の切り札さえ使えなくなる。自分にできることを自分からなくしてしまうのは。
Though the pain in her azure eyes was not as deep as the pain of death, it spoke of the regret she would feel if she did not do everything possible while blood still flowed through her veins.
納得いったのなら黙ってていい。これは私の戦い。あんたには何の責任も関わりもない私の人生なの。座して死を待つなんてまっぴらごめんよ。勝つ気があるならいつまでもベッドで寝てるわけにはいかないでしょ。
Soujuurou was dumbstruck. Aoko could never let anyone else get involved. Whether that was because she cared or cared less, he could not tell. What he did understand, though, was if he wanted to stop her, he would have to do so with his bare hands. And he knew better than to try that. Even so, he had to ask one last question. If he did not, he would not be able to live with himself after leaving this room?
わからないな。青崎はなんでそこまでするのか、俺には想像もできない。君を縛っているのは義務と強制。どっちなんだろうね。
There was a sadness in his eyes. However, Aoko was unmoved by them.
らしくなく難しいこと聞いてくるのね。いいわ。口にしても仕方のないことだけど答えてあげる。その2つはね、常に私を圧迫してるものだと思う。けど勘違いはしないで。義務も強制も誇りも恐れも周りから与えられたものじゃない。瞳子と戦うのをやめたところで祖父は私を叱らないだろうし、アリスも文句は言わないでしょう。ここで逃げてもそれはそれで誰にとってもどうでもいい話になって終わるだけ。だから他人は関係ない。本当に意味なんてないのよ、何にだって。でも私は瞳子から逃げたりしない。これはただのここにいるっていう存在証明なの。私は単に意味がないからこそできることは全部やるって決めただけなんだから。
With fiery passion, Aoko Aozaki had said her piece. Soujuurou was left with a pang in his chest. He did not know why, but her words angered him. Then again, at the same time, her self-confidence had him in wonder. Even though she had said that her life had no meaning, her stubbornness gave meaning to everything.
じゃあ、それが、たとえ。
Without thinking, he started to ask another question. Maybe he wanted to change her mind. Maybe he just wanted to hear her answer.
たとえ他の誰も見ていなかったとしても。
It came out as a murmur. Indeed, if no one was watching, no one could know that she had fled. This was the situation Aoko was in. Even so, she shot him down instantly.
あら、見てるわよ。少なくとも私自身がね。
Her expression brightened, possibly because she had been surprised at having to state the obvious. Soujuurou was wide-eyed in shock, but Aoko remained nonchalant.
知らないの、宗十郎。生きてく上で一番の観客っていうのはね、他ならぬ自分自身なのよ。だから人生っていうのは油断ならないんじゃない。
Soujuurou did not respond to her somewhat exasperated tone, but simply rose to his feet. He looked defeated, which was not like him at all.
宗十郎？
すまない。君が素晴らしいことを言っているのはわかるんだ。けど、俺にはわからない。
He meekly walked towards the door. As he placed his hand on the doorknob, he paused. For a few seconds, he fought with himself, desperately trying to think of something to say. No words came forth, and so he opened the door, which swung with a strange creak, and he left the room. After watching him go, Aoko turned her gaze towards the window. It was nearly evening. A thin veil of darkness was threatening to descend on the town outside. Alright, we're gonna end the episode here. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in another one real soon. And, subscribe. It's free. Thank you.